And this is going to go live on Facebook and go live on YouTube simultaneously on our YouTube channel simultaneously at the same time.
What's the Facebook page?
collegecoachingnetwork.com.
Okay.
Or College Coaching Network is like the
Gotcha.
group page. Yeah, exactly. Appreciate that.
We got music in the background.
We're good to go?
Yes.
All right. You got it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is College Coaching Network. We want to just welcome everyone for joining us today. We just wanted to reach out and talk to everyone about some of the things that are going on with the COVID-19 epidemic. And with that, we will share our mission with College Coaching Network. Our mission is to provide help, to also provide guidance, and also provide support to the students. So I'll turn over to Claude, who is our founder and CEO, and he's going to introduce you to our lovely panelists today.
Yeah, so we have some wonderful people. I've known a lot of these people personally over the last 2 or 3 years, so excited to hear just kind of what's on their heart. The consensus or the mood of what we want to have today with the live chat or live webinar, whatever we want to call this now. I'm trying to get on the technology part, but just it's to bring hope and encouragement. A lot of people right now are going through a lot of tough times, just trying to understand social distancing, which I love people. So it hurts for me not to be able to go around people right now. So we want to make sure that we can use technology to kind of keep everybody connected. And we just want to give you guys some insight on some things that we may know that can shed some light to kind of help you navigate. But Tanya Edwards is amazing. She has done some amazing work with, I won't say, or do you want me to say the organization, not where you work, but the organization that we work with? Is that okay for me to talk about that?
What you can say whatever you want to say, Clyde. That's fine.
All right. So we've done some work there with Cotillion over the last 2 or 3 years. We taught them about college prep and planning things of that sort. And then there's other things we've done to help some students get into college. And some of the students, one particularly got into college with a full ride. So it was because of you. So I cannot thank you enough for the relationship. Bridget is amazing. This is my sister in love. She introduced me to my wife for 21 years, so I owe too much to her. Phenomenal when it comes to writing and just event planning and everything that she does. Of course, Mika does everything for us. And then you can see on the screen, we have Tina. Tina and I met through a great friend of mine through church. And she teaches through leadership, through John Maxwell Leadership in a lot of school districts in St. Louis. And we're kindred spirits. So she's had just so much going on. And then Pauline is phenomenal. She does a lot of work training the students on college prep. She is a grant writer. I won't talk about how much money that she received in the grant that she helped to promote, but it was in the millions. So I will say that she is somebody that you want to know as a thought leader. So I just wanted to introduce everybody. We'll start out, and I'll throw it over to you too, Mika, but I wanted to start out with my sister here with a quick question. And the question that I want to ask you is from a perspective of being a mom, because you don't look like you have a daughter that is getting ready to graduate from high school. You look like you're getting ready to graduate from high school. Being a mom, what was your initial reaction to the closing of the schools in Kansas? So that's my first question to you.
So from a couple of different perspectives as a mom, but also as a mom who has some familiarity with the seriousness of coronavirus. I'm a director of communications at a university, and we have been doing a lot of preparation just for this disease and really looking at the impact. And so I had a sense that it was probably coming because it's serious. So my initial reaction was relief. I was really glad to see a decision made that put the lives and safety of students first. So I was relieved. I believe that it was the right call. But then I went from relief to sadness because, you know, in my own household, I have a child who is about to graduate from high school, and she's worked really, really hard. And it's hard to think that she won't be able to experience a prom and her graduation ceremony, which, you know, there's so many stories just like mine, students who don't necessarily get to feel that satisfaction of crossing a stage, and it feels probably kind of incomplete. So I felt sad for those, and then worried. School means stability for so many young people, and just a fear over the loss of stability and structure, and in some cases meals. There are just a lot of social implications as well. So just a whole, I ran it, just the gamut of emotions. Just, I felt a lot of things, but I understand why the call was made.
Anybody else want to chime in on how you felt when you heard about that news?
I guess I'll chime in. I can also connect with Bridget because I have a senior that's graduating this year. So just the unknown. Actually, here in Texas, I was able to read an article on the Fort Worth Star that's saying that the STAR testing, which is a part of graduation requirements here in Texas, is being waived. However, the standard of deciding graduation, also grade promotion, is going to rely on a committee of teachers, parents, and school officials. So having that being known, but not knowing the directive right now, is kind of put you in a place of uncertainty. But also just as a parent, trying to make sure I keep my daughter encouraged, letting her know, you know, I'm fortunate enough, she has sufficient credits to graduate. So she's not a student that is at that in between of not knowing, but it's also finishing one journey to start the next, because as she prepares for college, it's still, when am I going to get my high school diploma? What does that look like? So I know, you know, staying connected to your school district, watching the news, and kind of getting an understanding. So as a parent, you can educate your student as much as possible, but also making sure you're kind of doing things at home to keep their brain sharp, because unfortunately right now we just don't know when that deadline is going to meet. But making sure you stay informed and staying in connection with your school district is very critical right now. Very
critical. So my follow-up question, and then if you want to go to the next question, my follow-up question to you, Bridget, on that is, what practical steps are you helping your daughter go through to make sure she's going to still be prepared to graduate and then make the transition to college?
Absolutely. So we're still kind of in limbo. We're waiting to hear from our district about what the next steps will be. We've gotten some communications as recently as this week about, you know, there's information to come and the work continues. What that looks like is still to be determined, but I want to be sure that she's clear that she has not yet graduated. She's still a student, and there are some things that she can be doing to keep her mind sharp. And so one of the things that I am trying to enforce while she's kind of waiting is reading, just not completely disconnecting from some of the coursework that she has started this year. She mentioned that she has an IB test coming up. And so just wanting to make sure she's not in summer vacation mode. And not only that, but prepping for college. And so I also have a son who is just a year older than she is. And so he's a freshman in college, and it was a wake up call for him, just how important it is to budget and to plan. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that later, but just wanting her to wrap her mind around having almost a head start for maybe an extended runway into her freshman year, and thinking about, you know, being knowledgeable about college finances and really building good study habits. Right now, she's got a lot of downtime, but sometimes you can fill your downtime with really unproductive things, and just wanting her to look at spans of time as a gift and what can you do that is intentional and productive around those spans of time. And then just making sure also that she's got some good life skills. And so, you know, we're kind of in the middle of hyper awareness around being, you know, cleanliness and just, you know, some of those things that maybe college freshmen don't always think about when you go and visit them, and their dorm rooms are filthy and you wouldn't even sit down and you can't believe that this is the baby that you raised. I raised you better. Just, you know, since the whole world is looking at germs, and, you know, we're hyper aware of this now. And so I actually think it's good preparation for them leaving the nest. So just life skills really is something else we're really focused on.
And Pauline, I seen that you raised your
That's
hand.
good.
Was there something you would like to add to that?
And perhaps I might have got off the subject now, but while it was on my mind, and all of us are getting updates, seems like every 15, every 20 minutes, or, you know, what have you. I would probably at this point encourage everyone to really know the true resources. And the first resource I would look at is your state Department of Education's website. For example, here in Missouri, we will go to desi.gov, G-O-V, and every state would have their own, you know, URL that you would go to, because trust me, they would have the information that from a state level, what's going to be mandated. I know a lot of us are concerned about graduation dates or, you know, credits, and just the same information you just stated earlier. And then also go to your school district website, obviously. And hopefully those two are going to work hand in hand in that the school district is going to funnel up to your state mandates and policies and directions. So I've had people call me about that. I've got families that have SPED kids. SPED is one of my specialties, and they've already started posting some information and things to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Awesome. Mika, you got the next question?
So the next question, yes, is going to be addressed to you, Ms. Pauline. So when it comes to paying for college, what options do you see that are available for students? So while they're at home in that downtime, what resources can they be seeking out to find for college?
Right, right. And, you know, I'm always trying to find the rainbow in every little situation, such as this. And I would strongly encourage our young people to utilize those keyboard skills. Go ahead and establish a Excel spreadsheet, for example. Or if you want to go and Google a template, you can. But what you need to do is come up with a time of day, every day, like it's a job, and search out those scholarships that may be of interest. And as you find information, go ahead and just kind of plot it on your Excel spreadsheet. So, you know, if you're someone that's interested in nursing or engineering or perhaps hospitality, you know, you would set up a spreadsheet geared for each career path, because sometimes our young people, they may have been interested in one career 2 weeks ago and now they want to go on to something else, you know, so, and that's fine. I encourage that. However, as far as where's the money, you know, I'd go with the low hanging fruit first, you know, and I would definitely look at what type of information your high school counselor is sharing with you. It's so important that these young people, our scholars, understand that that counselor is a partner, and they have to make it like, you know, their partner. They have to learn how to self-advocate. As I was taught as a young person, the will to speak the loudest gets the oil. So these counselors, they have information about area or community organizations that are looking for young people. They always say every year, you know, they have to put the money back in the bank because they can't find students that apply for them. Mm-hmm. So again, go with the low hanging fruit first. Also, I would investigate, you know, the churches, your parents, the parents, employers, even if they're working at Burger King, believe it or not, Burger King has a scholarship. And there's different portals that they can set up their own profiles for, like scholarship.com. And those kind of filter down and kind of match what that student's, GPA or interest or, a whole, what am I saying, a whole different pattern of what their interests are. And then it will align them up with those scholarships that they should be eligible for. So again, anytime they're starting to pull in information, I would establish a time of day and establish a document such as an Excel spreadsheet, and they should chart information. So when they start hearing back after they've applied for a scholarship, they will chart that. And then, start putting in those dates, because I tell you, the deadlines are so important. So,
Yes.
that's probably the first thing I would share today.
Thank you. Clyde?
I'd like to add real quick to that. We have some students that are coming out from Grandview High School. They're one of the partners that we use for our app. And we created a software that actually automates the process of the Excel spreadsheet that Pauline's talking about. So it's okay to use the Excel spreadsheet, but for those people that want to kind of leverage technology, you can go either way. But the Grandview already paid for this app. So when we called you guys and invited you guys out, you guys do have access to some technology that Grandview has paid for. And other school districts that use it too, you guys will have access to this very soon. And then also there's another one, it's called the Community Foundation Scholarships. If you go out and Google Community Foundation Scholarships, you'll see every community scholarship that's in your local area based upon the demographics that Zoom or Google does when they do the, what do they call that when they're in a certain area? I cannot think of the actual, it's kind of like a geographical area. Whenever they do like a geo search, if you put in, it'll show you every community area around your geographical area. So those are just some that are out there as well.
Okay. So the next question is addressed to Ms. Tanya. So what are the things students need to focus on right now for college admission?
I'm going to answer that twofold. The first thing, and I probably would have answered this differently had I not dealt with hundreds and hundreds of college students, but since I have, I'm going to answer it a different way. And it's not the can answer. It starts with the mentality first, because what I see and often is that we have young adults that are going to be on their own. They've not really had an opportunity to make a lot of decisions, how to spend their money, how to budget their money, how to study. Just those basic things that, they always have the parents as the safety net. And the reason why I say preparing mentally and encouraging your children right now on those fundamental topics is because of retention. They can go to school, and a lot of parents believe that, oh, I just get them in school, they're going to make it through graduation. No, there's so many things that they have to face with the peer pressure, the social gatherings and all of those other things, in addition to trying to get the best grades possible. And a lot of times, if they don't have that foundation and they start school and they start to fail, they see a D on their assignments, and they start turning in papers and they're not getting the best grade. Well, then that slowly but surely starts to chip away at them and their confidence, and then they start to believe that they're not college material. And so then it's a rippling effect. So I would answer that question like I just gave an advice to someone I'm mentoring. I said, during this time, read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Start to read some of these books that you will have and you will reference probably for the rest of your life. And then number 2, you guys hit it. It's financially. There's a lot of parents, single parents and two family households that maybe they didn't save for college, and they don't have the money to pay for the things that may come up. People are surprised at how much books cost. You can be up to the thousands just for books,
Yeah.
and you're not even talking about the other stuff. And so right now, I would say financially, if your child can work, that's an opportunity for them to save if they have not saved thus far. And you know what? It's not working over the summer to go and buy yourself some new shoes. It's working because we're going to put this aside so that you can have a starter fund. And then the last thing, number 3, would be obviously the scholarships. It's not too late. Individuals say that, they should have started a long time ago, but you just got to get started. So if it's something where you don't have a lot of scholarships, the thing about it is with scholarships, I have probably on a lot of occasions given scholarship information out just to see it collect dust. So it's not necessarily about just knowing where to go for scholarships. It's about the student knowing about the why. Why am I applying for this scholarship? Why am I sacrificing my idle time to do this? And I asked the kid, I said, why are you doing this? Oh, so I can go to school. But why? So that I can pay for school. Well, what do you want to be? I want to be a pharmacist or a doctor. Why? Because I think I'll look good in the white coat. I said, that's your why? Because you think you'll look good in the white coat? Yeah. I said, that's not your why. What is your why? And I refused to move off of that question until she gave me an answer, and she knew I wasn't. So after about the 3rd time, she goes, well, I'm doing this because, my dad has cancer, and we don't know how much longer he's going to live. And I'm graduating, and I want him to know that his baby girl will be okay when he sees me walk across the stage. And I instantly said, that's your why. I said, what's the difference between I'm going to look good in a white trench coat versus the clock is ticking on my dad's life? I need to do this. I need to sit down and do this so that I can not just start, but to finish. And that perspective, starting with that, then when you're sitting at a computer, when you have to fill out a million different things, you know why you're doing it, but you're going to be motivated to finish. So those are my 3 things.
That is excellent.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there.
It
That
is.
is.
And that's good advice for all of us.
I know, I'm sitting here taking notes.
That's such there's a book, Start With Why, that so many people are reading, but it's so critically important because it's hard not just to motivate students and young people, but it's hard to stay motivated in your own life sometimes. And so important.
That also speaks to the power of the mentor relationship, because a lot of students need that help and that guidance, and someone getting to the core, to the root of why they're doing, what they need to do, because there is that deficit in guidance, or just some students, different people can get through to others in different ways,
right,
to make that kind of light bulb effect happen.
right.
And that's why, one of the platforms with College Coaching Network is the virtual mentor program, where our students have access to talk to mentors and professionals throughout various different industries, because different people reach students in different ways. And we live in a day and time where, unfortunately, there's that gap between parenting and teacher relations. And just sometimes students have both going on, but they need another sounding board.
Right.
So that is definitely excellent, because mentoring is definitely also a part of a tool that you need when transitioning to college, to learn those life skills and be able to tie everything together in an efficient and effective way.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
And Tina, I think Tina has something to add on that. I just feel like my buddy was out there. Tina, what do you add on that?
Yeah, like I get excited about talking about this because when you said retention, like retention excites me. uh, having experience in teaching college freshmen for the last 15 years, that I always tell them, I'm glad you're here. It's great that you're here and you started, but I am far more excited when I see you finish.
Yes,
So that
yes.
is, when you said retention, that's key. And that ties into what you're saying, Mika, because when you have that mentor there to help guide you along the way, when you have the why is what's going to keep you going when you
Absolutely.
get overwhelmed. So I just love all of what you just said in that order that you said it in, because that's the stuff when it all starts coming down, and after the excitement and the honeymoon phase of getting in wears off, what's going to keep you
Yeah.
going and keep you staying there until you finish and see it all the way through. So that excites me. Mm-hmm.
And you know, I want to make sure I get back to Mika on the questions, because we got a couple other questions I thought were phenomenal. So I want to make sure I get your take on that. But during this time where everybody kind of feels like we're in seclusion, because I have 3 daughters and I love them all, but we play board games and all. I'm like, oh my God, how many more board games are we gonna play? You know, but in this time where we all kind of are in the house a lot more than normal, this is a good time to reflect and to ask yourself that question, like, what is my why? And I think that if a person can actually ask yourself that question, and we can come out of this temporary season that we're in, but you could come out of the season knowing your why, man, watch out. You're going to have a whole lot of people that's going to come out here ready to blaze and make things happen for themselves, and probably would accomplish more when we come out of this than the time before then, because now you understand what's fueling you to do what you got to do to make it happen. So I'm excited to see people coming out to discover that.
Yeah.
I'll shut up, Mika.
So thank you. All that was excellent. So the next question is, and anyone can kind of jump in and give this, and maybe this is one that Claude can also speak to. What are the key factors for students to maximize on scholarship opportunities? I know someone mentioned that some students feel like they're late in the game on applying for scholarships, and then now you're kind of in that limbo. So it's definitely time to take advantage of applying for some, because there are a lot that have not met those deadlines. So what can students do to maximize those scholarship opportunities that are still outstanding?
Well, as I kind of mentioned before, at some point, I really try to encourage our students from a mentoring perspective that our scholars need to be self-disciplined. We need to really work with them on that. So if they are at that level where they can answer their why, I mean, that's pretty much half the battle right there, that they continue to look for those other scholarships. You're correct. Deadlines are really the common denominator in this game. So they, it's almost like if they're an athlete, or, if they're a competitive type person like my children were, they go for it. And it's networking, they can ask around in their church fellowship there. They can ask other adults in the community, retirees, so not only will they have their automated, coming into their inbox, but we also really encourage them to kind of do their own research and just kind of be their own trailblazer and looking for those opportunities where there might be some organizations or, for example, the Kaufman Scholars, wonderful program they just rolled out in the last, 4 years or so. And one of my mentees, she was a recipient. And, you'd be surprised how peers talk to each other, and when you can start grouping them at these college network events, and when they start seeing that there's other students that look just like them going for that same thing, it helps motivate them, so it's kind of like put them in that same group with those students who are about, uplifting themselves and empowering them so that they can work together and kind of rub off on each other when it comes to keeping motivated and being more self-disciplined.
That's great. Anyone else have anything that they would like to add regarding the scholarship opportunities right now, with everyone being, pretty much in the house? Taking advantage of the online opportunities are key. And I think I also heard you say, Ms. Pauline, of that connecting, that reaching out and talking to someone. And you mentioned about reaching out to people at your church and retirees. And right now is a great time to reach out, because that social distancing piece, with just hearing your voice and being able to have a conversation, can provide encouragement to someone and maybe open up an entire different window for a scholarship that you didn't even know existed, just by reaching out to someone. Because right now with that isolation, just communication can provide so much insight and encouragement for each other as well.
Exactly.
I wanted to add real quick, just two quick tips on the scholarship piece. You should know your gap. So the gap is the difference between what the cost of college is and what you're receiving in financial aid. So right now they have actually moved the ACT test back to June. I want to say it's June the 3rd. They moved that back to from April, which is unbelievable. But because that's got moved, is moving that date back, now there's a delay in your award letters. So some of the colleges may be delayed in those. And if you actually have one university that you really like, and then you're not getting the award letters from the other ones, you don't know if you're getting your best offer at this point. So stay in good communication with the universities that you have applied to, because you can actually take maybe an award letter from another university and try to use that as leverage, or you can actually have a conversation and say, hey, I really want to go to this university, but financially, there's a gap. Like I really don't want to take on an additional $5,000 in loans per semester. So now you got to work towards how do you fund that gap through scholarships, plus leveraging, or whatever it is, work study, or whatever you may need to do. And then the last thing is private scholarships. If you get a private scholarship by writing an essay or doing some kind of activity, make sure you communicate with the university once they do give you your award letter and you accept those funds, that if you get an outside scholarship, that they don't reduce their scholarship by the outside scholarship that you received. I had a student that went to a particular school that I won't say because I don't want anyone from that school to get mad at me, but they got a $3,000 scholarship, and that $3,000 scholarship that they wrote an essay for, when they got their award letter, they took that off of their scholarships. They thought they were going to reduce their overall loans. So that outside scholarship should have reduced their overall debt, but that scholarship reduced the institutional grant money that they were giving them from the university. And these are things that people need to understand. Like before you accept this award letter, you need to talk to, especially if you have pending scholarship applications out there, you need to talk to the admissions and say, hey, if I get additional money, are you going to treat this against my award letter? Those are just some things that I have seen, unfortunately, people go through, and I want to make sure kids don't experience that going forward.
And I'm glad you pointed that out. I personally have 2 adult children that have graduated from college, and one that's getting ready to graduate this fall. So they're all 5 years apart. It's like each one has a whole different process. What I thought was working with the first one as far as how we went about to get scholarships. It changed, because there's different laws and what have you. But one thing I did figure out is just what you're talking about. So I encourage that if you are applying for example, back when my oldest was involved in doing this application process, she was an Inroads scholar. You remember Inroads?
Yes.
Yes, yes, she was up there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, back then we shared with them and just told them, look, if you can get the scholarship made out to your parents or to you as opposed made out to the school, it would be to your advantage.
Mm.
You follow me on that? Yeah. And then the last child, like I said, she's a senior now. I went to a workshop. I do attend the college admissions workshops, and they usually have them in St. Louis. And there was quite a discussion about making sure that our Missouri students, so the rule now supposedly is that any Missouri funds that a student will receive in-state student tuition, they will make sure that that student is not penalized because they have other funds coming in. So in other words, if you're a recipient of a Missouri, I can't think of one right now, a Missouri sponsored package of money, it's not going to be impacted or reduced because you have other scholarships coming in.
That's actually a great point that a lot of students don't understand. We recently had a conversation with a high school coach there in Kansas City. I won't say whom. However, something that a lot of athletes don't understand, and he went to, of course, college some time ago, but a lot of college athletes don't understand that even though you may get that full ride scholarship, there is still Pell and grant money out there that you can receive.
Mhm.
So to put, to pay for those additional expenses that your scholarship may not cover, because of course, when you go to school on an athletic scholarship, you're literally going with a full-time workload for school and a full-time job when it comes to working out your body conditioning and doing the things that you have to do. So taking advantage of the Pell Grant and any type of funding that you can get is also critical, but that's something a lot of student athletes may completely be unaware of, that they still qualify for those things because of the fact that they got a full ride scholarship to that particular institution. So that's just another tip to throw out there that I don't think a lot of parents or students may be aware of.
There's one other thing that I would like to say, and it's maybe a message to parents. A lot of times it's really helpful if your child has his or her heart set on a certain institution to make that known. So I would encourage students to have their parents share that information. I say that because my middle son he had plans to attend an HBCU, and I was just sharing this information with someone that I knew personally. And she shared with me, well, we have a very active alumni association in this area. I wasn't aware of that. And so sometimes not only the student networking for his or herself, but also the village around the student. And so that you just never know where some of those opportunities might arise. I was just randomly talking to someone in a bookstore. I knew this woman when I was in high school working in a grocery store, and she recognized me and she asked about my family, and I was telling her about my son, and she said, I am going to connect you with somebody so you can get some additional funds. You just never know where those opportunities might arise.
Yeah.
Clark?
I guess my question to Tina is, you work with a lot of students in regards to leadership. So share some light on us on some of the soft skills that students are going to need, especially when it comes to some of the admission interviews that they do now may actually have to be conducted just like this virtually. So what are some of the things that you can help them with in regards to the soft skills and communication?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we have been talking about this evening are so on point and lead right into this answer. We just finished talking about networking. Networking is so critical. Being able to articulate your why, as Tanya talked about earlier, is really important. Because if you can articulate your why, you're often ahead of the game because so many people cannot articulate theirs. So just really being able to, I mean, that's just real talk. And when you're able, so because we have parents and students listening in, this is another thing that I found to be very important, that the student really comes into knowledge of his or her why. And parents, I'm not dismissing what your role as a parent, but I have seen so often where students are, where parents are articulating a why for a student and what the student wants. And it's really not the heart's desire of the student. So I would say that is really important. I have 2 children of my own, and my daughter's even listening in now, which is great because we're starting to navigate this process, and she's a sophomore. But I have been listening to her very intensely because some of the things that I thought were her why, I am hearing some things that are a little bit different. And so I'm coaching her along in how to really come into that. And my kids are both very self-aware. And so I'm listening as a parent. So I really encourage parents, even in this question, to really sit down with your students and really ask them what is their why. Ask them what are they really interested in, because that's what they're going to be able to articulate to someone. It's more challenging to try to give your message to someone than it is for them to give their own message and what their heart's desire and what they're passionate about is. So that communication piece is really important, but even moving beyond communicating to what I call connecting. And you can connect via social media or via a social platform like this. So often people have shied away from these types of methods, but it's very effective. We're doing it right now. And the way that you do that, we are. Like, I feel like I'm sitting right in the room with the rest of you all. And it's because of the way that everybody is engaging. Look at everybody's faces. Do you see any frowns right now? You know, one of the best ways to connect with someone is to be pleasant and smile. And you can do that. What I exhibit via this medium is the same. So if I'm looking mean, mad, you're going to see that the same way that you would if I'm sitting right in front of you and physically. So this type of a system that universities have been using these systems even before we've been self-quarantined, right? And we're seeing the virtual interviews and the video interviews and all of those things that are being used. So I would say first, just make the mindset shift to not make this be something much bigger and harder and more difficult and more challenging than it really is. This is the same as you sitting in front of an interviewer for a university or someone who has a scholarship offer. It's just like you're sitting in front of them face to face. So some of those same things are really important when you connect, giving good eye contact. Right now, as we're talking, everyone who's on here, I feel like I'm right engaged with them in the room because we're looking at each other. Right. You know, Bridget is nodding at me and smiling right now, and so is Pauline and Tanya. You know, everybody's engaging. So you can bring, and I'm doing this intentionally because you can bring the same level of energy to an interview. And I demonstrate in person with students. I'll say, you know, if I come in the room and I'm just kind of talking like this, you know, and I'm saying something, see, I've kind of lost you already, right? But when I'm really engaged and when I'm talking in this manner and I'm projecting my voice and I'm giving good eye contact and I have good posture, all of those same things you're wanting to do when you're interviewing with someone in an interview setting. And another thing to remember is you're always interviewing with someone.
Right.
First impression.
Okay, you're always interviewing with someone. And it's just like Bridget just said, you don't know who you're talking to at any given time. Right. So for students, put your best foot forward and be your best self and represent your best self at all times.
Yes.
And anytime someone asks you something very simple, like what's your name and what school do you attend? Right now is an opportune time to really show who you are, because you can say your name and go into, well, but we're not in school right now, and those kinds of things. Or you can answer that in a positive way and really talk about who you are and how you're overcoming the challenge and how you're meeting the challenge currently, even in the social distancing world that we live in. So the same social skills and the same soft skills that apply face-to-face are also important in this space that we're in now. And I would say this is really the hour to shine, because if you can connect with someone virtually like this, because many people have that mental block, you're ahead of the game already. So that posture, that eye contact, that body language, all of those kinds of things, and really understanding and being able to articulate your why, who you are, and what you want, you are far ahead. I've had teachers tell me since my kids were very little, preschool, first grade, they sure know who they are and what they want. They sure do. That's right. That's right. So that's what you want to do. Don't be, now is not the time to shrink back. You have been in school all of these years and you have demonstrated leadership. So to Claude's question, you want to be able to take all of the things that you've been a part of and highlight your leadership skills. What have you led? And don't be shy about it. Now's not the time to shrink back. What organizations did you hold roles in? And it can be your church, it can be in school, it can be on sports teams, and really being able to translate those skill sets that you have actually learned when you're actually talking to someone and presenting. So those are a couple of the soft skills. I also say things like decision making and time management, like all of those soft skills are also very important during this time. I was so excited. My daughter and my husband are the early bed, they go to bed early and they rise early. And when I woke up this morning, I saw these emails my daughter had copied me on. 6 o'clock this morning, she was communicating with universities, and using this time to start to respond, because we have all of these email responses that have been coming in that with her very active, busy life, she hasn't been able to really follow up with it. She's taking the time and carving out the time to start responding to those people. So we're talking about verbal communication and connecting, but that written communication is also a skill that's very important. Making sure that when you're sending things to people that you're having someone proofread it and proofread it again to make sure that your subject verb agreement is accurate and that you're capitalizing and you're using complete sentences, young people, because in the day of abbreviating and texting and things like that, those are some things that we are not always mindful of. We may know the right way, but because we're used to the shortened version, we want to make sure that we're proofreading things that we're saying. So now is the time to really rise and to shine and to take advantage of these things. What can you do? Practical things? Get in front of the mirror. You probably heard that people say this kind of stuff and it sounds a little corny, but it really, get in front of the mirror and practice and watch yourself and look at your gestures and listen for your fillers. What are those words that you're consistently saying that don't really mean anything? See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Even adults, I practice it all the time. Record yourself speaking so that you can then listen back to it and identify what those fillers are that you're using so that you can practice eliminating those.
Excellent.
So, would you say, Pauline?
I said excellent.
Yeah, so yeah, this is the time to rise. Like, use this time. When else do you have time to stand in the mirror and practice these things that I'm talking about?
Exactly.
The school day doesn't afford you those opportunities very often to do that, which is why I go in to try to spend time with students doing that in schools. But now you have the time. Use your time wisely. Time management is a soft skill. How are you going to carve out your day so that you can practice these things? Pick up the phone. I know that phone is heavy, like pick up the phone and use your finger and dial. Like, this is how you dial a number. There these things go. I'm having fun with you all because I get it. You know, I understand. Dial a phone number and practice saying hello to somebody.
That's hilarious because I think I've actually watched my daughter and her friends sitting next to each other,
Yes.
texting each other.
Yes.
Where's the art of communication
Oh my God.
appears to be almost a dying art because,
Yeah.
like you said, that shorthand
Yeah.
and not communicating, making eye contact. And it's so many times, I know you working in the schools, and Claude and I have worked together years with youth in ministry, and making eye contact is one of those things that I notice that a lot of the youth now struggle with. And it's
Yeah.
part of what you said, knowing who they are, knowing their why, and having the confidence to make that eye contact.
That's right.
Because they do everything on the phones, but also it's reinventing what was our norm, because I'm not that mature. However, I did grow up in a time where cell phones really, if we realistically look at it, cell phones did not become really popular till the thousands, to like early 2000, where it was a commonality for you to have a cell phone. And then camera phones came, maybe 2002 or so. So now we're in the era where the virtual communication is.
So you mean this bag cell phone? My bag cell phone is outdated?
Yeah, no one's using a cell phone or anything
Yeah,
anymore.
you know, yes.
But converting those skills that our kids may have thought was, oh, that's old fashioned, and making it relevant to them now with virtual communication, such as we're doing now. Like you said, showing emotion and making eye contact, although it's through a screen. I'm here in Texas, and I think everyone else is in Kansas City, right? Or the surrounding areas. You're in St. Louis, and we're still here fully engaged in conversation. But I think that's something that the students could take advantage of during this downtime. And I hope there's students out there listening and taking heed to these tips, to put the phone down, don't text your friends, to video call them, and role play to prepare for those college interviews, which now may have to be virtual opposed to in person, be in lieu of the coronavirus. Do not take the time as downtime, but take it as preparation time.
That's right.
I just want to add one more thing.
What you're saying is, you know, now we understand that our young people they're not too shy, because if you get on the TikTok and if you get on the Instagram, we know they got the question is, do they want to apply that to what we're talking about? See what I'm saying? So that's why when I have my workshops, many of the kids that I've worked with over the last 10 years will tell you, Miss Johnson's always talking about, you know, branding yourself. You know, do you have your 3-minute elevator speech? You know, again, that goes back to, do you know who you are? And as you said, do you know your why? And when you start practicing that, well, do it on TikTok. I don't care where you do it, but you know, these are some things that, you know, that first impression is going to be so important. I remember taking a group of young people to a luncheon. I think it was at one of the hotels down on the plaza. And it was so funny because they had never been at a seating where there was like all these forks and all these knives, and you know, so we as mentors, we just need to be aware and just try to give them as much opportunity as possible, and then also meet them where they're at. So if they're an Instagram child or a TikTok or Facebook, you know, I think we're the only ones on Facebook, quite honestly, because my kids, they're not on Facebook because I'm on.
I swear it's for old people. My kids say.
Right.
It is so important that we do realize that they're very creative when they want to be. Now it's just a matter of equating, putting that energy into something that's going to pay off in the long run. Now, speaking of energy, I'm going to brag just a half a second. We got a half a second left. I have a young scholar that, just like you said, sometimes we want them to do something else. I'm steering her into this direction and she's kind of looking at that, but she was really wanting to do something else. So again, we met halfway. And I said, well, if that's what you want to do there, you can stay in state. We don't have to pay a bunch of money to do that. But if we're serious about going into something where, employers are going to be knocking on the door, you know what she did? She says, what? I really like the Asian culture. She took it upon herself to learn how to speak Korean, learn how to write Korean. So her sophomore year, guess what? She went to Korea on a full ride. They paid for her airfare, they paid for her tuition, and she was there at one of the top Seoul Korea colleges there. And you know what? I didn't really know what all the process was, but because she was so motivated, and once she saw, oh, I can, do this, plus travel, then she finally saw how that could add up. So again, as mentors, is my advice is to make sure that we don't get too caught up into saying, well, no, you're not going to, there's nobody's going to hire you for that. But hopefully you could combine, her interest or his interest with, something that we know that the Department of Labor says this is where the demand is going to be and what have you. So just thought I'd throw it out there.
Bridget, you were going to make a statement earlier.
Only when we were talking about soft skills, and I don't want to belabor the point, but we a lot of times talk about the importance of eye contact and fully communicating and answering a question and smiling and being pleasant. And that's so important with first impressions as it relates to college. But I've sat on a couple of committees, one with the Chamber of Commerce and another that our university has pulled together. We bring in business leaders around the community, and soft skills are so critically important at our university that we've created curriculum around that. So I just would want to say to the students on the call, if you can master these things, you are ahead of your peers and you will stand out. So it's even beyond immediate opportunities. We're talking about being employable. And so why go to college? Why go through that process? And it is a journey. Why do that and make that investment of time and resources if you are educated and have trouble getting a job after that's over? So beyond that process, you want to be employable. So really important to be able to communicate, really important to master those things for the long haul. That's all I wanted to say.
Just to add to that, Tanya, what's your professional insight on that gap that you see with students that are getting admitted into college? What are some of those skills that they need to hone in on to make themselves a viable candidate to be considered ahead of the crowd?
I think the individuals, they struggle with thinking and having, so the things that they are being taught, it's almost like when they first start off, they're checking a box. And I think that if we could start really earlier, like in high school right now, getting our students involved in volunteering, speaking up, getting in front of crowds as much as, even if they struggle through it, that'll be an opportunity for someone to give feedback. It's like, maybe we need to put you into a grammar course, or I saw a young man, he wants to be like an MC of some sort. And we gave him an opportunity to MC one of our programs. And he did a good job because he got through it. Now, if we were to review the tape, he didn't prepare. And he didn't, so the itinerary, for example, of introducing the judges, you have that script, you read through it, you prepare, because talking about your brand, even if you give a funny joke as an MC, people remember that you struggled over that word.
Right.
or words, right?
Right.
And then unfortunately, those are the things that we remember. And so if we start early, or we start as early as possible, even down to like what I'm doing with my daughters, when we're in the restaurant, what we say, they look for me to order for them, and I'll say, Brianna, Ariana, tell them your order. And they're like, yes, I would like blah, 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 blah. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get them to learn to have an opinion, speak up. And then now it's leading into the classroom to where in 1 year they struggled in a subject and she was too embarrassed to speak up. And after we have that talk, now she is the one after every class going to the teacher and saying, hey, I don't want this subject to get away from me. Would you prefer for me to just write these things down during the classroom so I don't interrupt your teaching, or would you rather me do it on the spot? So when she told me that, I said, you are connecting the dots of being successful. And you know what? That teacher came to me and said that they enjoy having her in the classroom. She wants to learn. She's hungry. And that makes them want to invest in her. And even though she's not perfect, they're not saying she's perfect in getting the subject. What they're saying is she's doing the right things when she's struggling. She's speaking up. When she's trying to find resources, she has a desire. Her heart is being heard in terms of, hey, I want to be successful. And so to answer that question in summary, it's just really getting our individual students, mentors, or whatever, mentees, to get involved in as many things as possible that's going to help them polish up on those skills.
Claude, do you have any
That's
insight
good.
or any
For
points
the
you would like
sake
to
of
add?
time, no, I'll do this in closing just for the sake of time. I know everyone has made themselves available and we still have, family responsibilities, but my goal or my dream for College Coaching Network was to make sure that people were not on an island by themselves. I didn't get the guidance, and I'm not saying this as a knock to my guidance counselor, but I didn't feel like I received all the adequate support that I should have received. I had a 3.875 GPA, scored 17 on the ACT test, walked on the basketball team at Pittsburgh State, got a scholarship to help offset the expenses, but my mom, she did a lot to try to take money from all resources she could to get me through college. And I wanted to try to create a company that could bring wonderful minds like you guys and other people that we will be in contact with in a community, so people would not feel like they're going at this all by themselves. In 2020, we still have first generation graduates from college, which is crazy, right? But we still have this happening. So sometimes the parents, they love their kids, hopefully all the time, but sometimes the parents don't know what to even tell them because they didn't even graduate from college. So I wanted to create a community where all of these people could come together, and it will all be for the purpose of trying to better someone else's life. So thank you guys for making yourselves available and taking time from your families. Everything that we have done tonight, we have one person, but I know we have some people from Grandview that I could see that were there from the inside of it. But it's all recorded, so we can push it back to the students so they can see it from archive. But we hope that they'll be able to take these tips and apply them to their lives. So from the bottom of my heart, thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your schedule. I appreciate all of it.
Thank you.
ladies.
Thanks so much.
Have a great evening, you guys.
Too.
You too.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You as
Good
well.
evening.